Gentlemen, Melvin. Yeah, you're going to I'll get you a chair. Okay. So, thank you all for coming. This is the first event we've ever had of this sort in our shop, and we are very honored and very pleased to introduce our friends from New York City. By the way, this is Deborah's hat that I'm wearing. And I want to thank Frances, where is she, for starting all of this. This is Ari's mother. She came up to shop in my shop one day and she said, "Duh, you're one of Ari's women." So that's how we all met. And then I went to New York and we've had a wonderful time. But I just want to focus on Ari and Deborah for a second and just to introduce them to you, because I must tell you, I am so inspired and in awe of these two people who do so much for women. And I'm talking about women who are sort of the invisible women, the women that as we age we don't get the kind of attention that we used to. But I truly, truly can tell you that Ari loves older women. In a way,
you've seen it in action on the street.
I've seen. I have to just tell you this really quick story because this is not about me. But I was with Ari and Deborah, and we were at a little restaurant having lunch in New York. And we came out, and it was sort of like this homeless center was next door, with sort of like these. And we kept. And Ari said, What is this? What is it?" Anyway, there was a woman sitting there who was a homeless woman, and she had a purse that was made like a little dachshund. Remember that?
Yeah.
She had a dachshund purse, and she was sort of frumped over and sitting just quietly, which you've seen she'd sat on that bench day after day after day. And Ari came up to her and he said, "May I take your picture? I'm telling you, she's so lit up, and she was so proud." I mean, and I don't know what it is, but there's something about when Ari gets a woman in front of a camera. I'm telling you, he had Deborah pirouetting, is that what you call it? Down the middle of the street in New York City. I mean, he can say, "Turn on your head and let's see how that picture looks." So, and you know why women do that? Because they so trust that what he does is make them beautiful. It's not about making fun of, or it's not about exploiting. It's about saying, "You too are the most beautiful woman." And I just gave the book to one of my young friends and I said, what I know about Ari is that he loves women on the inside as well as the outside. So when he takes the picture, he finds the magic. And this is Jack. This is his papa. He just snuck in the back door. He's the other one. And this is his brother, Mikey.
Well, there's a lot of
It's a fan.
And then Deborah, I just want to tell you a little bit about, I don't think probably some of you saw her all through the book. Deborah is not only an amazing, inspiring artist, she makes things out of things that you've never seen before in your life. She makes cuffs out of paper towels. She's going to tell you more about it. And hats. No, she makes the cuffs out of
toilet paper rolls.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm so excited she's going to spend the night with me tonight, so I'm going to see. We're going to make. I've been saving toilet paper rolls for about a week. Okay? Jenny, can you go help them go out the back door and go around? Somebody dropped that big old neck thing. Yeah. Okay. So Deborah's going to talk to us about what is her inspiration for doing what she does so very well.
First,
but first, we're going to have Ari tell us a little
Yes.
bit about what he does.
Since you're standing, I won't keep you too long, but thank you, Dolores, for having us. I'm glad my mom brought us together. Anyway, I have a little presentation, but I don't know if you guys will be able to see it. It just will show some of the photos, or I could just talk. Can you guys see her, or should I just? I can just talk. Anyway, I grew up in San Diego, obviously, and the way that I really learned about style and culture was from my two grandmothers, and they were my best friends. My mom's mom was the head of the Chula Vista Library, and some of her old colleagues, staff are here, and she stayed best friends with them. And my other grandmother, Helen, was just this beautifully dressed woman, and they really encouraged me to be creative. And I used to play in their closets in my grandfather's old sweaters and put on his hats and socks. And my grandmother, Bluma, obviously not Marlena Dietrich, that's not her, but she exposed me to old movies, and we used to watch old movies and look through her scrapbooks, and so my idea of style was based on this sense of elegance from the past that I saw in my grandmother's and in the old movies and photographs. also, being a librarian, we used to go to the library all the time and look through old photo books. So I've always loved that picture of elegance from the past, and just the values that were instilled into me by these two wonderful women. When I was young, my grandmother and I used to sit and watch movies, and I would draw pictures of her and her friends. And when I was about 6 years old, I made my first book, and it was all these, widely eccentric women that I imagined in my head and that I saw with her. So these are some of those pictures. And you can look at this later. So my grandmother Bluma went to Columbia University, and she told me as a young child, you have to move to New York if you want to be creative. That's where everything is going. She loved San Diego, but she loved her time in New York. And she would tell me stories about all the people she would see walking down Fifth Avenue, and just how much culture and everything that she was exposed to. So I knew that I always had to go to New York. And before moving, I met this wonderful woman named Mimi Waddell, and Barbara, our dear friend, and some other people were there. At the Cinema Society, they showed this film called Hats Off. I encourage everyone to see it, because this woman, Mimi Waddell, was 93. She started a career in modeling and acting at the age of 65, and she was in Louis Vuitton ads, Juicy Couture, Burberry, and this all happened after she raised her kids, and it was really her time to be creative. And so she would go out on calls at 93, ride the bus, and wait in line, with hundreds of people, and get these great roles. She was also in Sex and the City as one of the grandmother characters. And what happened was, I told Mimi at the signing, I'm moving to New York in a month, and I'd love to get to know you, because she kind of reminded me of the spirit of both my grandmothers together. She was so smart and vital and wise and creative. And so as soon as I got to New York, I called her. She didn't answer, and I kept on calling her. And then one day I rang her apartment, and she answered the door. And I said, I met you in San Diego. And she finally let me into her life, and we became very dear friends. And one of the things that really struck me that she said was, the only thing romantic left in life is a hat. And she was a huge hat collector, always wore a hat and beautiful clothing. And she was just so wonderful and really became my muse after my grandmother's. So what I did was, I started to approach the city through my grandmother's eyes, and I wanted to meet older people. I've always had this connection to older people. And I was seeing all these men and women, not just women, walking around on the streets of New York who had just incredible style. But for me, it was about the way that they presented themselves to the world, how active and vital they were. Before I moved to New York, I would have thought it was a really hard place for older people to live, coming from San Diego, where we have so much convenience. We can get in a car, it's not cold, but these people have to walk everywhere, and they have everything at their fingertips. They can go to a museum. Whereas we took care of my grandmother because she couldn't drive anymore, but if she didn't have us, she would have become isolated. So New York is actually a really wonderful city, and I started meeting all these people, talking to them, getting their stories, hearing what influenced their style. And I started taking photographs. I had never taken a photograph before, borrowed my roommate's camera, and started to make friends with all these really wonderful women from 60 to 103 years old. And eventually I was started a blog because I really saw a lack of representation for older people in lifestyle and fashion media. I mean, in general, everything I saw related to older people was either clinical or sad or depressing, which was such a different picture than what I was seeing on the street, the experience that I had with my grandmothers, and my point of view. And I wanted to share these women's style and stories with other people, and hopefully inspire people of all ages to look at aging in a new way. So I started a blog, and then was eventually asked to do this book by a publisher. It just kind of came about that way. And I'd like to introduce you to some of the ladies in the book. Hopefully, you can all look at this later if you can't see it now. This is Lindell. I met her on the streets dressed in a huge green cape, and I asked her if I could take her photo, and we've become good friends. She's 80 years old. One of her favorite sayings is, I dress for the theater of my life every day. And she runs a boutique on the Upper West Side, gets up every day, dresses up, takes care of her husband, and she's just such an inspiration. This woman here, I'll let you guess. How old do you think she is? Barb?
90s?
Well, close. I saw this woman and I saw that she was wearing, for me it's not just about someone who's fashionable or stylish, it's really their lifestyle and how they put themselves together, but how they approach the world. And I noticed that she was wearing this dress and she probably has had it for 50 years. And I went up to her and I asked her if I could take her photograph. And she said, "How old do you think I am?" And I said, "I don't know, how old do you think I am?" And we kept on going back and forth and back and forth. And then she lived in a building with a doorman. And he said, is this young man bothering you? And she said, no. And then she said, "You know what? I'm 105 years old.
No way. Which one is that?
Just this, she's not in the book. She's not actually in the book. No, but another 100-year-old's in the book. This woman here, Ruth Cohen, I met walking around the streets of New York. She's 102 years old now. We just got together. She taught me how to play bananagrams, beat me 3 times. Bananagrams just like Scrabble. She lives by herself, takes care of herself, does Pilates twice a week, and lifts weights every morning. And she's just, she's always had, what I do is I try to take something from each woman that I get to know. And from her, I try to ask her, what is the secret to your vitality? How are you so strong and independent? She says, I get up every morning, I celebrate, and I don't look at the calendar. So she doesn't even think about age, and she's just such a wonderful inspiration. Here's a picture of her doing Pilates. Sephora Solomon, she's another local style icon in New York. She's in her 60s, so she's a little young for the book. And she collects vintage, rides her bike all around the city, and she looks at as style as an art form. It's something that's healing and brings joy to people's lives. Ilona Roy-Smithkin, she's 93 years old. Another woman I met on the streets of New York, she's a cabaret performer. She only started doing that at the age of 90. She's been a painter her whole life. She makes her hair out of her own eyelashes, and she's just a wonderful inspiration. She makes, yes.
We're just checking on your questions. You got it the other way.
So what started to happen with this project, just a personal project, blog, book, was the fashion industry really started taking notice of older women. And I started noticing not only were brands coming to me and asking me if I would shoot campaigns with older women for them, but people like Iris Apfel, who's 91, I believe, did the MAC campaign. The cover of my book, Get to Lee, was just in the Celine campaign. And then, a fun story, this woman, Jackie Murdoch, is 81 years old, grew up in Harlem, and never had the opportunity to be a model. And she always wanted to be a model. She became a dancer, danced at the Apollo Theater, and when I met her, she said, and asked her if I could take her photo, she told me her story. A few months later, Lon Vaughn came to me and said, we want to use some older women for a campaign. I introduced them to Jackie. Now, at 18 years old, she wanted to be a model, and finally at 81, she got her shot to be in a worldwide campaign for one of the biggest fashion houses in the world. And it's just incredible that I started a blog, and then this woman got this opportunity. And yeah, I mean, the things that I hear every day, the influence that these photographs have had. I just shot a campaign for the sunglasses brand Karen Walker with women 65 to 93. And Vogue Australia asked me to do a story with these women as well.
Wow.
So really, I mean, what I do is all about style and vitality and lifestyle, and kind of, hopefully, it's not really about making people feel beautiful, it's just making people feel like they should be feeling at any age. And so it's just been a wonderful experience meeting all these great people. I want to introduce you to my friend Deborah from New York. But right before that, I'm working on a documentary about the lives of 6 or 7 of the women and what's happened to them over the course of the last 4 years. And I'll just show you a quick trailer from that. We've done a lot of work, and we're entering it into film festivals soon, so we'll see what happens with it. This is my dear friend Deborah from New York. She'll tell you the story of how we met and a little bit about herself.
Oh, it's such a delight to be here. Hi, I'm weepy today because we did this in South Pasadena the other day, and the response is just so incredible. And just knowing Ari for 4 years and knowing his parents and his brothers and the whole background, it's just so phenomenal what's been happening that it just touches me so much. And every time we come and embrace a crowd like this, it's just unbelievable because we're all going to age. It's inevitable. And when I look out there, like Ari sees, that we are better with age. We have that life experience, and we have the insights and the wisdom, and we really have to embrace it. And it's not about fashion, it's more about personal style and a personal statement. And we all have that because we all have personal creativity. And it just so happens that the first thing as human beings we do in the morning is we put clothes on. So we're really expressing who we are and communicating that to the world. So we want to put our best selves out there. And so many times we hear from people who are infirm, and they say, when I put on a little makeup and I wear some color and I put on something that I really love, I do feel better. And I say, when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you look good. And style is healing because it is a personal creativity that's coming forth. And, I don't care how you express your creativity. It can be gardening, it can be cooking, it can be painting, it can be taking care of a pet. That's all what comes from our inner wisdom and what feeds us. And that's what we just have to continue to do as we grow older, because we can't just sit down and shrivel up and do nothing. And that's where community is so important. And Ari has really created an entire community of people who are aging and getting better throughout the globe. I mean, he has traveled to almost every city in Europe at least twice. I mean, he's been to London, what 8 times or something? And it's just, and of course with the internet, it's amazing what happens with Facebook and his blog and the book and emails. And I mean, I have met so many people who have written to me because of Ari and who have become friends and have come to New York and have come visited me. And I'm known as Ari's lady, the one who collects 24-year-olds. And so I've met so many young people who come to my house for tea, for lunch, whatever, because I love to embrace them as much as they love to embrace Ari and his whole concept that he's put out there. So I've always been a visual artist, and I met Ari. He was working as the manager of the bookstore at the new museum 4 years ago. And I came in on a rainy day, and I had bright pink hair. And he came up to me and he said, "Oh, can I take your picture? I have this blog of women over 60. And I said, "How do you know I'm over 60? And he said, "Oh, but you know what? I don't have my camera today." So I whipped out my business card and I said, "Here's my card. I'll dress up, I'll undress, I'll make you lunch." And he kind of like freaked out a little bit.
No one has said that to me before.
And of course he didn't call me. And 2 weeks later I called him and I said, "Come for lunch." And that was the beginning of the relationship. And I was the first one he ever photographed off the street as well in one's environment. And since then he's been doing more of environmental photographs as well of people in their lifestyle. And it'll probably be his next book, where he will go into our homes and show how we live and why we live the way we do and how we're creative in our lifestyle. And I'm just so grateful and fortunate that I have a chance to travel with Ari, and we've been to many places, the Phoenix Museum, the Peabody Museum in Massachusetts, to several senior citizen homes. And
The Ricky Lake Show.
The Ricky Lake Show. Right, that was,
Deborah got a Kmart commercial. She was on billboards all over
yeah,
Manhattan.
there's a quick flash of that in the, and that's also me there repairing a rug, because I'm a textile person, so I do rug restoration as well as making the hats and the bracelets. And I've always done personal adornment and embellishments for the body, but as far back as the 60s, I've always done it with recycled and unusual materials, so that's kind of my claim to fame. And I'm just delighted to be here, and I'm so delighted I had the opportunity to meet Dolores in New York thanks to Ari, and we felt like we were sisters, and so here the relationship is continuing, and we're going to continue to play today. So thank you all.
Thank you.